Hey guys, so we are going to be taking a look at some organic chemistry and macromolecules today for our lecture video. Don't get scared, it's not hard, but it is a little bit more complicated than probably anything that you've looked at to date. So just make sure that you are sticking with me and paying attention, and we will go through what OChem means for us and macromolecules mean for us, and just kind of how that fits in to our daily living too, okay? So we are going to start with our essential question, okay? And the essential question is, what are the 4 macromolecules and their monomers? So by the end of this lecture, you should be able to tell me what the 4 macromolecules are and what their monomers are. And if you don't know what a monomer is, don't worry. We're going to talk about that first, okay? So what we're looking at is chemicals, all right? Our body is made up of a series of compounds. So in this table, you can see there are elements that make up the human body. So here it tells you 96% of the human body is made up of oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and phosphorus. And you do need to know that, okay? That the majority of your body is made up of oxygen, O, carbon, C, hydrogen, H, nitrogen, N, and phosphorus, P. Okay, so that is the majority of your body. Organic compounds, that second bullet point, are compounds that are created by living organisms and contain carbon. So anytime you hear the word organic compound, it means that it has a C in it. It means that it has a carbon atom, okay? So again, you need to know 96%, the majority of your body, is made up of O, C, H, N, and P, and that an organic compound is a compound that has carbon. It has a C, okay? So there are 4 groups of organic compounds. Here is the main point to answer that question, okay, the essential question, and we're going to elaborate on these. There are 4 groups of organic compounds. You have carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids, okay? And you can see here that it tells you what elements are contained in each one. So for your notes, you need to know carbohydrates, and you need to know what 3 elements make up carbohydrates. So for carbs, you have carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, CHO, okay? You can say carbohydrates and their elements make the word CHO. Okay. 2, you have lipids, and if you need to right now, lipids is another name or another term for fats. Okay, so fats are lipids, and they contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and phosphorus. Again, you need to know that those elements go with lipids. So lipids are CHOP. Okay, proteins contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen, okay, CHON for proteins. And nucleic acids are things like DNA and RNA. They contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and phosphorus, CHOMP, okay? The easiest thing to do is to definitely go through and know what letters, by saying them as a word, go with each organic compound. So for carbohydrates or carbs, you have CHO, lipids, CHOP, proteins, CHON, and nucleic acids, CHOMP. CHOMP, okay? All right, so the things that make up those 4 organic compounds, so the things that make up these organic compounds, carbs, lipids, proteins, nucleic acids, okay, they're made up of little tiny pieces. And so simple molecules combine to form the big molecules. So a macromolecule means a giant molecule. So these 4 things, again, carbs, lipids, proteins, nucleic acids, are considered macromolecules or giant molecules, okay? And in real life, we can say that the way that we build things, the smallest would be atoms. That's like letters, okay? And then the next biggest, after atoms being the smallest, and that would be like letters, would be words. So simple molecules or monomers, which are building blocks, would be like words. And then complex organic compounds, the macromolecules, that would be like sentences. So we have these little pieces, single letters of atoms. Then when we put those letters together and we get words, those would be the monomers that are going to then get put together into a big sentence and make a macromolecule, okay, which is also called a polymer. Poly meaning many. Okay, so macromolecules are made up of smaller units called monomers. So you need this definition. A monomer is a small unit that can join together to form a polymer. So a monomer, like in this picture, is a single unit that when you put it together with other monomers, sorry, I need to go back. When you put it together with the other monomers, they fit together and they form a polymer, a bigger molecule, okay? So again, a monomer is a building block. It's a single unit that's going to join together to form a polymer, to form a large molecule. And monomers in a polymer can be identical or different. Okay, you can have different types of monomers clicking together to make a polymer, or you can have ones that are identical. So we're going to go into details on the types of organic compounds that we listed before. Again, there's 4 types. The first one is carbohydrates, carbs. Okay, so they're made up of, again, carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, that CHO, okay, they are made up of those 3. And these are used as our main source of energy for living organisms. So when we need to fuel our body, the main source of energy, because it's quick and we can use it quickly, is carbohydrates, all right? So this is an important point. Carbohydrates are the main source of energy for living systems. You want to underline it, you want to highlight it, something. That is a serious point and will be asked on your exam, okay? Sources of carbohydrates are plant sources, so starch and cellulose, simple sugars. Examples of foods would be something like carbohydrates would be wheat and things made of wheat, so breads, pastas. Also carbohydrates you would get from fruits, okay, anything with sugars. So any foods that contain those things would be carbohydrates. Okay, so simple sugars make complex carbs. So in this case, this is just giving you an example, okay? Glucose is an example of a simple sugar, okay? And it's a monosaccharide and so mono meaning one, okay? One sugar unit looks like that, and this is a ring structure, and then this is what it would look like if you just put the bonds together. And then a polysaccharide would be lots of those single units getting put together. Okay, so again, a monosaccharide would be like glucose, one sugar ring, and then a polysaccharide would be those sugar rings put together. You should draw this picture of, or copy and paste a picture of a monomer of glucose. So you could Google glucose and then copy and paste it into your notes. You want to have this picture of glucose. So if you need to pause right now and do that, you should do that right now. Starches and sugars are examples of carbs that are used by living things as a source of energy. Again, we use sugars and starches to fuel our bodies. We can use the other ones, but it's not nearly as efficient, so we use carbohydrates. And in this case, this is just giving you another example of a starch that is made by attaching glucose molecules together. And you're basically going to break those bonds and release energy for yourself. And a mnemonic to remember what kind of foods go with carbs, like where can you get carbohydrates for your diet, is this. Sugars and starchy foods are packed with carbs. So if you can remember sugars and starchy foods are packed with carbs, you will remember that sugar and starch, pastas, breads, cereal, fruit, any kinds of sugars goes with carbohydrates, because you're going to need to know that for your test. What kinds of foods are examples of carbs? A second macromolecule. So we did carbohydrates, now we're on to lipids, which again, if you want to put in parentheses fats, lipids are fats, and they're made up of carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and phosphorus, CHOP, okay? They do not dissolve in water. That's what number 2 means. Not soluble means not dissolvable in water. And if you've seen that where you've put a cup of water, you could go do it right now if you want. Fill up a cup with like halfway with water and then pour a little bit of oil on top. It's going to float on top, the oil, because it will not mix. It's not soluble in water. That's what that means. We use it for long-term energy storage and membranes. So you need to know for your exam that fats are used for long-term energy storage, and also that they're used to make cell membranes. Okay, we have the phospholipid bilayer. We'll talk more about that later, but you just need to know that it's made for cell membranes, used in cell membranes. Examples in foods or in your body are fats like olive oil, butter, fats from meat like beef or pork. Steroids in your body are made of lipids, and cholesterol also is a lipid in your body. So you're going to need to know, again, examples of those things. You're going to need to know where can you get lipids from foods. What foods? Okay, oils, butter, those kinds of things, okay? The monomer for a lipid is a fatty acid and glycerol, okay, that has 2 monomers. And the polymer, the big chain, is called a lipid. So fatty acids look like this when we put them in the format of just a chemical with bonds, and then a lipid is a bunch of these put together. So the monomers, again, are the fatty acids right here on this part of the picture, and then the glycerol. And again, you need to go ahead and Google a fatty acid lipid. Sorry, go ahead and Google lipid, and then you're going to need to copy and paste a picture of a lipid that has the 2 parts, fatty acids and glycerol, into your notes right now. So go ahead and pause and do that. All right, the mnemonic to remember what types of foods or things are examples of lipids is liposuction, which is lipid suction. Liposuction sucks out fatty cells. So again, lipids are fats, okay? All right. The third one that we're going to talk about is nucleic acids. And nucleic acids are made up of hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, and phosphorus. And this is the CHOMP, okay? CHOP, sorry. Again, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, okay? And hydrogen, CHOP, okay? Or CHOP. It's used to store and transport genetic information within the cell. This is your DNA and your RNA. So that's what nucleic acids are for. That is their function. Again, you're going to need to know that. What do they do, right? They transport genetic information. Examples are DNA and RNA. Their building block or monomer is a nucleotide. This is easy to remember. Nucleotides make up nucleic acids. And the big molecule is a nucleic acid or DNA, okay? And this is an example. This is a picture of a nucleotide. So right now, go ahead and Google a nucleotide, and you want to copy and paste that picture into your notes. You need to know that it has 3 parts. It has a phosphate group, a nitrogenous base, and a 5-carbon sugar. And you're going to need to be able to recognize this picture as a nucleotide. So make sure that you see that and that you have a picture of that in your notes. Nucleic acid examples here. DNA is the double helix, so deoxyribonucleic acid. It has the 2 spines. And then the RNA is the single strand. Okay, so these are both examples of nucleic acids. Go ahead and insert a picture of DNA and RNA into your notes right now. This just shows you nucleotides right here. It's giving you a little picture of a nucleotide making up the DNA strand and how they fit together. You don't necessarily need to put a picture of that, but it just gives you an idea. All right, to remember what the monomer and what the function is for nucleotides or nucleic acids, nucleotides build nucleic acids in the nucleus. So you're going to need to remember that. Nucleotides build nucleic acids in the nucleus. And then the last macromolecule that we're looking at is proteins, okay? Proteins are made of hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, and nitrogen, okay? And again, you need to write those down. You need to know what they're made of, and you can just put the letters if you want. Protein has a lot of different functions. It controls the rate of reactions. That's enzymes, okay? It forms bones and muscles. It transports things within the cell, and it helps fight disease. It's part of our immune system, okay? So when you think proteins, okay, think muscles, think bones. It transports things within the cells. It's cell machinery, and it helps to help build your immune system. And it also helps to make reactions go faster, okay? An example of a protein would be enzymes. In your body would be enzymes, okay? Some dietary examples of protein would be things like meat, eggs, okay, that kind of stuff. Mostly it's products that you would get from animals, so carnivorous foods, things like that, okay? So again, examples of proteins: meat, eggs, in your body, enzymes, okay? And the monomer of a protein is an amino acid. That is the building block, is the amino acid. And then the polymer, the large molecule, would be called a protein. There are amino acids. There's 20 different types. And however you put them together, which ones you have specifically and how they go together determines the type of protein that you have. It will fold a certain way once certain proteins are put together properly, okay? And this is an example of an amino acid. So I would go right now, Google a picture of amino acids, and then copy and paste it in. Anytime you see a R group, okay, if you see a picture and it has an R on an exam, something like this, then you would know it's a protein, or an amino acid. An amino acid always has this R group right here, and it will have something added to it. Okay, so on your exam, if you see something that looks like this and it has an R, that means it's an amino acid. And amino acids make proteins. They make polypeptides. So we take one amino acid and we put a bunch of them together and we get a protein. Okay? All right, this last part just talks about hydrolysis versus dehydration. It's basically how we put together these polymers, or how we break them apart. Okay, so hydro, the prefix hydro means water. So for hydrolysis, it means that you're using water to break amino acids apart. So if we're looking at this chain of proteins right here, this is a full polypeptide, like a long chain making a protein. If we add water to that, we're going to break apart those bonds and separate them, okay, into the separate amino acids. So basically, when you need to break up a bond, you're going to add water and do hydrolysis. Dehydration means that we're going to take water away, okay, from a reaction, and that is how we're going to link these amino acids together. So you just need to know the difference between the two. Again, hydrolysis, hydro means water, and hydrolysis means using water to break amino acids apart. So taking that big protein and breaking it up into pieces is hydrolysis. And then if we want to make a protein, we need to remove water from the amino acids, and that will link them together. And then mnemonic for proteins, okay, to remember what proteins are in your body is a mean old man is made of protein muscles. Okay, so a mean old man is made of protein muscles. Here's the compounds. This is a really good flow chart. If you can either find this flow chart or you want to somehow copy it down on your own, you can probably Google that and it will come up for you. Carbon compounds include carbs, lipids, nucleic acids, and proteins. These are the 4 macromolecules, and it tells you what makes it up, okay, where you can find it in the diet or in the body, and then it tells you what elements make up each of those. So that's a great thing to copy in or go Google and find and put into your notebook right now. All right, so make sure that you have answered the essential question. Make sure that you know what the 4 macromolecules are and know what each of their building blocks are. The monomers, know what each of those are. And then make sure that you can say what each of these is for each macromolecule. Where can you get it from your diet? This video, I would like everybody to go and watch. It talks about the different types of foods that you could get in your kitchen. So I will put this on Google Classroom for you to watch after you're done with these notes so that you have some examples of foods and other compounds that make up each of those 4 areas of macromolecules. All right, that is the end, and I hope that you guys got what you needed, and I'll see you next time. Bye.